There are moments in life when compassion becomes a trap, when your desire to save others slowly begins to destroy you. Carl Jung understood this better than anyone. He saw how empathy, when unguarded, can turn into self-betrayal. He warned that there are certain kinds of people whose wounds are not calling for healing, but for hosts. People who do not want light. They want company in the dark, and if you keep trying to pull them out, they will pull you in. Jung once said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. The problem is that not every transformation leads to growth. Some lead to corrosion. Some people are not meant to be saved by you because they have no intention of saving themselves. Their chaos feeds off your order. Their misery thrives on your hope. Their shadows crave your energy. The truth is uncomfortable. Not everyone who cries for help wants healing. Some are addicted to their own pain. Others have built their identity around being the victim. They cling to suffering because without it, they wouldn't know who they are. And if you are not careful, your empathy will become their drug. They will keep coming back to you, not because they respect your light, but because they know it makes their darkness more bearable. Jung observed that people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. This is the first sign of those you must not help, the ones who refuse to look within. They run from their shadow, pretending it doesn't exist. They wear masks of strength, but the moment you remove them, they crumble and blame you for showing them the mirror. You cannot free someone who worships their own chains. Helping them is like pouring water into a broken vessel. No matter how much love, wisdom, or time you give, it will never be enough. Because the hole is not outside, it's inside, and only they can decide to fix it. The moment you try to do it for them, you begin to drown in their denial. Jung knew this dynamic well. He called it psychic vampirism. Some souls don't want healing. They want attention disguised as crisis. Then there are the manipulators of guilt. The ones who know your empathy is your weakness. They use morality to enslave you, pretending to be helpless so you never leave. You'll hear phrases like, "I thought you were different," or "After all I've done for you." These are emotional hooks designed to keep you in their orbit. They feed off your sense of duty, off the part of you that can't stand to disappoint anyone. Jung described these people as shadows wearing the mask of need. They don't want your help, they want your obedience. The more you give, the more they take. The more you explain, the less they listen. Because the goal was never to understand, it was to control. And here lies one of Jung's hardest lessons. Compassion without boundaries is self-destruction. You cannot heal others by abandoning yourself. It's easy to confuse empathy with surrender. But true compassion has edges. It protects both hearts. You must learn to say, "I love you, but I cannot carry you," because some journeys require solitude. Some people must meet their own darkness to find their own light. And when you stand between them and that confrontation, you become part of their delay. Remember, not every bleeding heart needs your hand. Some need the silence of consequence. Not every cry for help deserves your answer. Some are echoes meant to awaken their own strength. Jung taught that every soul has to face its shadow to become whole. If you take away that confrontation, you rob them of transformation. When you constantly rescue someone from the pain that was meant to teach them, you are not saving them. You are sabotaging their evolution. You must let them fall. You must let them see. You must let them feel the cold floor of their own choices. Because that's where awakening begins. Before you help anyone, ask yourself, do they truly want healing, or do they just want to be seen suffering? Are they willing to change, or are they addicted to pity? If your answer is the latter, your help will turn into poison for both of you. In this life, discernment is not cruelty, it is wisdom. As Jung said, there is no coming to consciousness without pain. You cannot become whole by carrying another's refusal to heal. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is walk away. So before you rush to rescue, remember, your energy is sacred. Protect it. Because when you constantly save people from themselves, you slowly disappear in the process. If these words spoke to you, Take a moment to reflect and comment. My energy is sacred. It's a simple phrase, but a powerful declaration of boundaries. And if you want to keep diving deep into the psychology of the soul, subscribe, because what's coming next will change the way you see people forever. There's a certain kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from work or stress. It comes from carrying people who were never meant to be carried. It's the silent fatigue of the savior, the person who keeps giving even when their hands are bleeding. Jung understood that dynamic too well. He warned that the human soul, when deprived of balance, turns compassion into self-destruction. And nothing unbalances the soul faster than trying to fix those who refuse to heal. You will meet them in every form. The eternal victim, the emotional vampire, the manipulative martyr, the passive destroyer, the envious friend, the charming liar. Each one wears a mask of fragility, but beneath it lies something darker: resistance. Resistance to growth, to self-awareness, to accountability. Jung wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." These are the people who worship their wounds. They call their pain destiny. And when you try to show them another path, they accuse you of betrayal. The first dangerous type is the eternal victim. They will turn every situation into proof that the world is against them. Every advice becomes an attack. Every correction becomes cruelty. You will try to lift them, and they will resent you for making them stand. They need enemies to feel alive, and if they run out of them, they will make you one. Jung understood that this mindset is not a cry for help. It's a refusal of responsibility. The victim doesn't want healing. They want witnesses. They crave empathy not to grow, but to validate their weakness. Then comes the emotional vampire, the one who drains you in the name of love, friendship, or loyalty. You feel it in your body after every conversation, a heaviness, a strange emptiness. They enter your life like a storm and leave behind a silence filled with guilt. Jung described these people as souls possessed by the shadow of need. They don't just want attention, they want your life force. And because you are kind, you confuse their hunger for connection with genuine vulnerability. You keep giving, hoping they'll change. But they won't, because the moment they feel full, they will leave until the hunger returns. There's also the manipulative martyr, the one who turns their suffering into a tool. They will cry, plead, or break down, not because they seek truth, but because it gives them power. They are masters of emotional currency. Their pain is a performance, and your guilt is the ticket. Every time you say no, they find a new way to remind you of how much they've suffered. Jung called this the pathology of projection, the tendency to throw one's pain onto others so it never has to be faced. You can't help someone who weaponizes their wounds. You can't heal a person who uses their pain to control others. When you try, you enter a psychological battlefield that isn't yours. And you will lose. But here's the truth Jung wanted us to understand. These people aren't evil. They are unconscious. They live in survival mode. Their shadow runs their life and they don't even know it. However, the tragedy is that you become the one who pays for their ignorance. You become the therapist, the savior, the rescuer, and in the end, the broken one. You will notice a pattern. The more you try to heal them, the worse they become. Because your energy allows them to avoid the one confrontation that could save them, the confrontation with themselves. Jung said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." But if you keep lighting the path for someone who refuses to open their eyes, you are only prolonging their blindness. So what can you do? You stop rescuing. You stop explaining. You stop justifying your boundaries. You let their silence become their mirror. You walk away not out of anger, but out of respect for your soul, because love without discernment becomes bondage. Compassion without limits becomes manipulation. And light, when given too freely, becomes fuel for shadows. If you have someone like this in your life, step back. Pray for them, but don't bleed for them. Healing is a choice, not a favor. And no one can choose it for another. There is a sacred law in psychology and in faith. God never forces healing. He invites it. So why should you? When you detach, it doesn't mean you don't care. It means you finally understand that your role is not to fix, it's to witness. To hold love without losing yourself. To let others face their own lessons while you protect the peace that keeps you alive. Because your peace is not selfish, it's spiritual. It's the foundation of everything you give. And when you guard it, your energy becomes pure, sharp, powerful. That's when you truly become a light, not one that burns out saving others, but one that burns steady, guiding those who are ready to see. If you understand this message, take a moment and comment. I choose peace over chaos. It's a vow to yourself, a boundary to your energy, and a declaration that you've finally learned what Jung tried to teach. You can love deeply and still let go. And if this truth resonates with you, subscribe, because in the next part, we'll go even deeper into the most dangerous kind of person Jung warned about, the one who hides behind spirituality to control others. Among all the people Jung warned us about, there is one type more deceptive than all the rest, the spiritual manipulator. They wear the cloak of consciousness, but their heart is still ruled by shadow. They use words like energy, alignment, awakening, and light. Yet behind those words hides the oldest form of control, pride. Jung once wrote that the shadow is not always dark. Sometimes it appears dressed as virtue, and that is what makes these people so dangerous. They don't come to you as destroyers, they come as saviors. They appear wise, balanced, kind, and evolved. They'll talk about detachment, healing, and inner work, but their actions will reveal something entirely different: domination, guilt, and superiority. Their calmness is a mask, their compassion is performance, and their wisdom is weaponized to make you feel small. They will say things like, "You're not evolved enough to understand," or "You're too emotional to see the truth." These are not statements of awareness. They are power plays. They position themselves as the enlightened one, while subtly putting you beneath them. And the moment you question their authority, they accuse you of being negative, asleep, or toxic. Jung understood this phenomenon well. He called it the inflation of the ego through spiritual identity. It happens when people mistake knowledge for transformation. They read sacred texts, learn deep concepts, quote prophets or psychologists, but none of it has touched their soul. They use enlightenment to escape their shadow instead of integrating it. This is the fourth kind of dangerous person you must not help, the spiritual narcissist. They are not seekers of truth. They are seekers of followers. They don't want healing. They want hierarchy. They thrive in the role of teacher, guru, or guide, but they never listen. Their mind is addicted to being right, and their heart is allergic to humility. When you meet one, you'll feel it. There's always a quiet tension beneath their smile, as if your disagreement threatens their existence. They preach surrender, but cannot stand to be wrong. They talk about letting go of the ego, but are consumed by theirs. And if you challenge them, they will twist your words and make you doubt your own intuition. Jung taught that the path of individuation, the journey toward wholeness, demands humility. It requires one to confront not only the darkness, but also the illusion of light. That's why he warned, beware of those who use spirituality as armor, because they are the hardest to reach, the most resistant to truth, and the most dangerous to your peace. When you try to help a spiritual narcissist, you enter a maze with no exit. You explain, they interpret. You empathize, they exploit. You share vulnerability, they use it as proof of your inferiority. Every act of openness becomes ammunition, and slowly you start questioning yourself. You begin to wonder if maybe you are too emotional, too attached, too flawed. That's how they win, not through strength, but through confusion. The truth is, spirituality without self-awareness is just another form of ego. And when someone builds their identity around being healed, they are usually the ones furthest from it. You cannot heal someone who refuses to see their own pride as sickness. So what should you do? You walk away. You protect your silence. You stop debating with those who use words as weapons. Jung said, "The greatest danger in times of confusion is not the evil in others, but the lie within ourselves. If you stay too long in their world, you will start lying to yourself just to keep the peace. Let them call you arrogant. Let them label you unawakened. It doesn't matter, because true spirituality doesn't need to prove anything. It's lived, not preached. It's quiet, not loud. It liberates. It never enslaves." The fifth kind of person Jung warned us about is the envious destroyer. This one is more subtle but equally deadly. They appear to celebrate your success, but deep inside, your light burns their eyes. They will smile while secretly waiting for your fall. Jung said, "The envy of others devours us inside, but the envy we receive tests our strength." These people pretend to support you, but plant seeds of doubt in every compliment. They will say, "You're doing great, but don't you think it's too much?" Or, "I'm happy for you, but be careful, success changes people." It sounds caring, but it's poison covered in kindness. Their goal isn't to destroy you directly. It's to make you destroy yourself, to make you shrink, question, hesitate. When you help them, you feed their bitterness, because your generosity reminds them of what they lack. They don't want your guidance. They want your guilt. They'll accept your help, then secretly resent you for it. It's a loop that never ends until you learn to detach. The painful truth Jung uncovered is this: not everyone wants to heal, because healing threatens who they believe they are. Some people need their pain, their story, their chaos. It gives them meaning. And when you take that away, they feel empty. That's why they fight your help. That's why they hurt you when you try to love them. In your journey, remember, you are not responsible for the awakening of those who choose sleep. You can pray for them, forgive them, wish them peace, but you cannot live their lesson. If you've ever been drained by someone who wore light but carried darkness, leave a comment that says, "I see through the mask," because once you see, you cannot unsee. And if this spoke to your spirit, subscribe, because the final part will reveal the most dangerous type of all, the one who hides behind love itself. There is one final kind of person Jung warned about, the most dangerous of all, because they disguise control as love. Their affection feels deep, intense, and all-consuming, but it isn't love at all. It's attachment dressed as care, possession disguised as concern. They need to own your heart to feel safe in theirs. Jung understood this well. He said, "Where love rules, there is no will to power. Where power predominates, their love is lacking." These people come into your life like warmth, but what they offer isn't safety, it's submission. They will make you feel responsible for their happiness, guilty for their sadness, and ashamed for their loneliness. They'll tell you they just love too much, but what they actually crave is control. They don't want your soul to be free. They want it to orbit around them. At first, it feels intoxicating. The connection feels fated, spiritual, divine. You convince yourself that they see you like no one else ever has. But slowly, you begin to realize that their love has rules, that your peace costs their approval, that your freedom threatens their security. You start walking on eggshells, afraid of disappointing them, and that's when love turns into bondage. Jung observed this pattern in countless relationships. He called it psychic possession through projection. When one person projects their unlived life, their pain, or their unmet needs onto another, the relationship becomes a prison. You are no longer two souls sharing growth. You are one soul feeding another's emptiness. And when you try to pull away, they collapse, beg, or rage, anything to keep the supply alive. These people will say, "I can't live without you." But what they mean is, "I can't face myself." And that's the tragedy. They don't want healing. They want refuge from themselves. Trying to help them will destroy you. Because no matter how much love you give, it will never fill the void that only self-awareness can touch. Your empathy becomes fuel for their dependency. Your forgiveness becomes permission for their cycles. And one day, you'll look in the mirror and realize you've become a shadow of yourself, drained, cautious, always trying not to break what's already broken. Jung taught that love without consciousness becomes a form of spiritual possession. True love liberates. It doesn't trap. It allows, it expands, it breathes. When someone uses love to cage you, they are not loving you. They are consuming you. He once said, the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. That's why these people never do. They seek others to fill what only inner work can heal. And if you're not careful, they'll make you their mirror, their therapist, their God, but you were never meant to save them. You were meant to see them and walk away, because real compassion sometimes looks like distance. Real love sometimes looks like silence. And healing sometimes means not showing up. The lesson Jung left us is clear. You cannot help everyone. You cannot heal what refuses to be held accountable. And you cannot save someone who uses your love to avoid their own pain. So the next time you feel the urge to fix, pause. Ask yourself, does this person truly seek growth, or do they seek comfort in their chaos? Do they want healing, or do they want a witness? Do they take responsibility, or do they always need a rescuer? The answers will tell you everything. Your empathy is sacred. Your energy is gold. Stop spending it on people who trade it for drama. As Jung wrote, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are, and you can't do that while living in someone else's shadow. Let go. Let them face their storms. Because every soul must meet its own mirror, and when they finally do, that's when real transformation begins. You are not cruel for walking away. You are courageous for choosing truth over illusion. You are wise for knowing that light cannot stay where darkness refuses to heal. And in that wisdom you'll find peace. Not the peace of ignorance, but the peace of alignment. The peace that comes when you no longer confuse love with sacrifice, or kindness with self-betrayal. Because in the end, the most powerful healing doesn't come from saving others. It comes from finally saving yourself. If these words resonate, take a moment to comment. I choose myself with peace. It's not selfish, it's sacred. It's the kind of decision Jung meant when he spoke of individuation, becoming whole, no longer chained to the wounds of others. And if you want to keep walking this path of self-awareness, spirituality, and psychological freedom, subscribe, because the next journey we'll take will show you how to protect your soul without closing your heart.